There's a dangerous train trestle over a small creek near Louisville, Kentucky that has harbored a legend for decades. Some swear they have seen it. Some leave with no encounters at all. Those are the lucky ones, because some never leave at all. There's been over a dozen that have never left the area alive. Some say it's due to a creature that is half man, half goat, full evil. Everyone loves a good, strange, weird, or bizarre story. Well, welcome to the American South, where dark legends and haunted history lurk around every corner. Where superstition, folklore, and a touch of backwoods magic blend with everyday culture. Some say, in order to survive. This is Dixie After Dark. Dating back to the 1960s, from best I can gather, stories began of a creature living in the growth beneath an old train trestle that spans across Pope Lick Creek in Louisville, Kentucky. The monster is said to be half man, half goat, walking upright on two cloven hooved legs, the torso of a man and the head of a goat. The creature is said to be covered in greasy fur, with sharp horns protruding from a pale white forehead. There are many origin stories for the creature, but there are two that are the most common. One, the creature is a circus freak or carnie, vowing revenge after the way it's been treated. Two, the monster is a twisted reincarnation of a farmer who sacrificed goats to Satan in exchange for immortality. Either way, the creature is said to have the ability to lure people onto the train trestle by hypnosis, and some even say it has the uncanny ability to mimic the voice of those you trust to lure you into its clutches. On top of its psychic abilities, the Pope Lick monster is also said to wield an axe, for those rare instances where the passing train or the sheer fear doesn't finish you off. Dubbed mostly as an urban legend, it's been difficult for me to find anything semi-concrete as to where or how this legend began. The earliest mention of the trestle itself is found in the December 1909 edition of the Courier-Journal. There is no mention of the creature, though. The brief article reports a train derailment due to a broken beam. Built in the late 1800s, the trestle rises 90 feet above Pope Lick Creek and stretches a distance of 772 feet. The skinny, rusted structure may look like the remains of a bygone era, but the trestle is still heavily used by the Norfolk Southern Railroad. There are no railings and no places to hide from the train. It's just you, the train, or a 9-story drop. It should go without saying not to go and poke around here, but my research gives me the urge to reiterate those warnings. The surrounding hills and forest make it hard to hear the train coming until it's too late. The wooden cross beams are spaced too far apart to get a good running speed going, and very few people have the strength to hang from the side for the 5 to 7 minutes it would take for the train to completely pass you by. Need more convincing? John K. List was struck and killed by a Southern Railroad Company train on June 1st, 1985. John and his friend Randall Graves had been on the trestle when the train approached. Randall was able to survive by hanging from a cross tie as the train passed above him. John tried to outrun the train and was struck and killed just 30 feet from the end of the trestle. In 1986, David Wayne Bryant avoided an oncoming train by jumping off the trestle. Unfortunately, he sustained severe injuries, which led to his eventual passing. On February 18, 1987, Jack J.C. Charles Baum II was struck and killed by a train while on the trestle. In 1992, a teen identified only as Grady was caught on the trestle by an oncoming train. Being too far from either side of the trestle, Grady's only hope was to hang from a railroad tie until the train passed. But he couldn't hold on long enough. Grady fell 90 feet to his death. In 1993, Christina Butts was among a group of teens on the trestle when they saw the lights of an oncoming train. They survived by climbing down onto the metal parts of the trestle and had to be rescued by firefighters. According to the rescuers, their ladder had just enough length to reach them. Had they been any higher, the firefighters would not have been able to reach them. In April of 1994, James Ratterman was attempting to cross the trestle on an ATV when it flipped, pinning James underneath. James was unable to free himself, even as the next train approached. James died at the scene. In November of 2000, Nicholas Jewell was caught by a train while on the trestle. He tried hanging from the side long enough to let the train pass, but the vibrations from the train shook him loose and he fell to his death. April 23, 2016. Paranormal enthusiast Raquel Bain and her boyfriend was visiting the area to tour Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Beforehand, they decided to investigate the legend of the Pope Lick monster. They ventured out onto the trestle and were caught off guard by an oncoming train. The boyfriend hung from the edge of the trestle, but Raquel was hit before she could descend from the track. She died at the scene from multiple blunt force impacts sustained from both the train and the 90-foot fall. Savannah Bright is the most recent reported tragedy of the Pope Lick Trestle. On May 26, 2019, Savannah Bright, 15, was pronounced dead at the scene after she and another teenage girl were on the tracks near Pope Lick Trestle. Bright's unidentified companion was taken to the University of Louisville Hospital. For those that do survive, but are still caught in the area, police go after them full force as a way to discourage future people from trespassing on the trestle. Also, if anyone didn't already know, the railroad itself can press hefty federal charges. There have been tall fences topped in barbed wire, along with private property and no trespassing signs posted. At one time, there were platforms constructed along the side of the trestle to give trespassers a safe location in the event of an oncoming train, but they were later removed by the railroad company, stating that the platforms only made trespassers feel more safe, thus luring in more visitors. An interesting solution has been offered by the Beargrass Thunder podcast, although city officials and railroad company authorities have yet to listen. The potential solution offered by the Beargrass Thunder podcast is to have a statue of the Pope Lick monster or a monument to those that have lost their lives erected at a nearby trail in the woods. Their argument is this would give cryptid hunters, folklore fans, and paranormal enthusiasts a place to meet and visit that is away from the dangers of the trestle and bring awareness to the death and tragedies that have already taken place. Personally, I kinda like that idea. much like the Mothman statue in the town square of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. That would give curious people a place to visit, take a picture and say, "Been there, done that," and then move on to their next adventure, safe and sound. Especially since the land surrounding the Pope Lick Trestle has recently been bought by the parklands of Floyd's Fork and turned into a local park and nature preserve, complete with a walking trail that goes underneath the trestle. There you go. There's your perfect place for a statue and memorial. Ultimately, though, some believe in the creature, some don't. But let's analyze this for a second. They say the creature is psychic and can use hypnosis to lure you onto the tracks of an oncoming train. In all these reported instances, the story, if not the creature itself, is what lured the lost souls to their deaths. It's hard to argue that the Pope Lick monster had nothing to do with it at all, in some fashion or another. The moral of today's story is just don't go looking for the creature. Regardless of if you believe in the creature or not, the train and 90-foot fall are very, very real. And besides, you don't have to believe in the Pope Lick monster for it to believe in you.